He is National Director of Counterinsurgency for Posses of America. This is the Posse Comitatus, the organization about which you've read so much recently. The media attention that came to this was triggered most especially by the slaying of two federal marshals in North Dakota on the occasion of their attempt to capture a man by the name of Gordon Kahl, who was wanted for income tax violation, and as the federal marshals approached his car, several shots rang out, and in the aftermath, two federal marshals lay dead. It provoked one of the largest manhunts in the history of the Dakotas. Mr. Wickstrom is going to say, among other things, that he's lost a confidence in many of the institutions in this country, not the least of which may be law enforcement. And as if to prove his point, the FBI has had one awful time in the Dakotas. They have not captured, as of this date, what is this, the 23rd? We tape as we speak to you on the 23rd of February. For those of you who watch us around the country, it'll give you some sense of where we are here. And we still, smart as we are not capable of telling you what's going to happen tomorrow. But at this moment, Mr. Kahl is at large, and the FBI, after having surrounded several farmhouses in the area with lots of media attention, and perhaps many, many hours of surveillance and standoff drama, would enter the house only to find it empty. So the FBI has had its problems in North Dakota, and they are taking some pretty severe media hits. How could the most efficient, modern, technically equipped law enforcement agency in the world fail to apprehend a man who escaped into a farm field following the shooting of these officers? Let's say again, he is still at large. You must be a little embarrassed by what happened out there. This is certainly not something you're going to publicly endorse, the slaying of two people who are out there trying to make a living. They've got kids, they're paying their taxes, they're as proud American as you are, and they're dead.
That's right, Phil. We abhor violence, and the main thing is that we feel it was an atrocity, that this had to take place, and my heart really goes out to the U.S. Marshals, and it goes out to the children of those Marshals and their families. It goes out to Mr. Kahl, because I believe they're being used as pawns of the game. And of course, for an alleged violation of a tax return, when the Constitution is explicit in stating that a progressive income tax is a violation of the constitutional rights of we the people, to subject this person to unlawful apprehension. And all they are is the marshals and we the people have become pawns of the games for the international bankers and the private central bank called the Federal Reserve of the United States.
All right. Would you join Mrs. Kahl in calling for Gordon Kahl to surrender? Why don't you do that? Show us that you care about the lives of other people who may be in his area.
Well, when you take a look at this, for example, we're talking about Mr. Kahl, Phil, but we also fail to recognize what happened in other events around the country. To good Christian Americans, John Singer in Utah, when he didn't want to keep his kids in public school and they shot him in the back with buckshot and killed him at his mailbox, law enforcement officials. A man by the name of John McMillan in Barrow County, Georgia, who was killed and shot and murdered by a SWAT team for failing to leave his farm because of a foreclosure by a branch of the Federal Reserve Corporation banks.
No, excuse me, but let's get this straight. You're alleging here that this was police activity which was aggressive, unconstitutional, and violated the civil rights of the people that they were attempting to apprehend?
I really do, Phil, and I think
let's just get this in. You certainly you join a number of publicly outspoken minority people who have made the same claim. The Friends of Fred Hampton want you to know that they share your grievance. Isn't that interesting?
Very interesting. But the problem here is that Mr. Kahl's incident and what took place in North Dakota, I think, is just a prelude of what the government has forced the people to do. We, the people, are losing our rights every day with corrupt courts and corrupt politicians who the only interest they have is to give themselves increased in raises and tax breaks while they tax us to death and steal our property illegally.
Okay. We should also say that more than one politician has said very much the same thing to the Rotary Club. The point, what makes this important is that your pursuit of what you believe to be the original intent of the Founding Fathers has taken a considerably different route. Let's try and understand who you are and what you're doing. You call yourselves Christian. You have major misgivings about the way the money system works in this country. Is it an anti-Semitic group?
No, we're pro-Christian. We believe that our Constitution and the Articles and the Bill of Rights is lifted from the Holy Bible, as the abridged version of the Constitution thus state. We feel the four Supreme Court decisions stating that we are a Christian republic, the last in 1961, is the basis foundation of our faith, to Jesus Christ.
It's a Christian republic. What are we going to do with the Jews?
Well, the Jews are here. They've got their own country. I believe this, that you got to understand, too, that even the poor Jews are being ripped off by the rich Jews. I've said this over and over.
Okay. You'd like to see the Jews go back to Israel? Is that your point?
Well, all I'm saying is this. I believe that the law is the law and that the law isn't above the law. And I don't like to see people tear down our Christian foundations.
And you think the Jews do that, do you?
Well, there are some of their groups, the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith, there's the Jewish Defense League. What we have is trying to destroy Christian standards in this land, and they have for a long time. There's a lot of Jews who abide by the nation. They want to obey the law. They pay their taxes. But there's dissidents within their organizations.
Or can those tax-paying, law-abiding Jews stay?
Well, let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. First of all, I don't think anyone should pay a progressive communist income tax. All right?
Can they stay, though? They won't. We have a number of the membership of Posse Comitatus in our audience, and we'll chat with them in a moment, as well as I shouldn't call you, I guess to say you're our regular audience is to be somewhat abusive to our special guest today, but go ahead. This sounds pretty racist to me. It sounds to me like you'd like to see all the Jews out of here.
Well, you got to understand, what does the word racist mean? You go into the Black's Law Dictionary, you go into the abridged dictionaries of the country. A racist is someone who is proud to be what they are. And this is a Christian republic, and if they don't like our Christian laws and edicts, they can just get the hell out and go back to their country.
Yeah. How are we going to do, hang on just a second, I promise we'll give you a chance. How are we going, now tell me about the other minorities. Let's talk about black people for a moment. What do you think?
I really feel sorry for them. I think they've been exploited too.
Tell me.
Well, when you take a look at the blacks, they've always been used as scapegoats. A lot of people make a lot of jokes about the blacks. They make jokes about a lot of people. But you know, when you take a look at the unemployment in this country today, the majority are blacks. And of course, you know, unemployment is controlled with the private central bank called the Federal Reserve again, which creates recessions, depressions, creates wars.
Right.
And I feel for them very much.
You feel
Christian Americans? Yes, I do.
Thank you for your feeling. But what would you like to do about them? I mean, can they stay? Can they stay? You'd like to put them back where?
I'd like to put them back to work. I think they should go back to work. I think we should stop giving foreign aid. I think we should bring the money back to America and put America back on its own feet. That's what I believe.
All right. Okay, so, but I assume that God-fearing, law-abiding, tax-paying black people can stick around.
Well, they're here and they have jobs. Some of them have jobs. And all I'm telling you is that we're a land of law, and the law is not above the law.
Let's talk about the law for just a moment. Sure. As I understand Posse Comitatus, the sheriff then becomes really the ultimate law enforcement officer of a particular county. So he's the last word then, is he? He
is the chief executive law enforcement officer of the county.
Is he responsible to anybody else besides the people of that county?
No, he isn't.
Okay. And if the sheriff discovers that somebody in the county has broken the law,
yes,
I think you believe the Constitution empowers him to deputize or to absorb into his posse all able-bodied males who then have the right and the official duty to help him arrest whoever he's after. True?
That is the law.
So let's pretend now we've got your system here and we've got this sheriff with this ultimate power, and he decides that somebody has broken the law. He deputizes as many people as he thinks he has to, and if one of his deputies, a citizen, while he's shopping at A&P, spots the guy, he can arrest him.
That's correct.
Are the posse members armed?
Yes, we are armed.
And if there's a resistance on that arrest, I assume that you believe the law permits these officers to fire the gun in an attempt to subdue the alleged offender.
Well, first of all, he can't summon his posse unless it's a felony. This is the law, Phil. On a misdemeanor or any civil order, he cannot summon the posse, only on a felony.
I know that, but who's to decide what's a felony and what's a misdemeanor if there's no higher court to which the sheriff is responsible? worry you a little bit?
It doesn't worry me at all.
It sounds like a pocket of Wild West chapters of people who feel the sky is falling and that they've got to save America and that they're Christian and they've got a message from God, and don't argue with them because this is what the law says, and we're going to arrest who we think is violating the law to protect our children. Have I got you pretty good here? Is that pretty close?
You're close, but remember, as citizens of the United States, we all have a responsibility and a duty to our fellow citizens. As Christians, we are to be our brother's keeper.
Okay. Mr. Wickstrom, if the feds came to you, incidentally, do you pay income tax?
No, I don't.
Do the members of your posses pay income tax?
Some of them do, yes, they do.
You don't think you place yourself at risk by publicly acknowledging that you don't pay?
Well, first of all, on the contrary, I don't believe that I should be forced to break the law.
You are.
How is it that you're breaking the law if you pay the tax?
And most people, if they understood that the progressive income tax that was brought against the American people with the New Deal of Franklin Delano Roosevelt in the 1930s was also the second plank of the Communist Manifesto, they would realize that the progressive income tax that was brought against us through the socialistic liberal effort of the Democratic Party at that time was to weaken the personal assets of we the people and to give the state a more broader power of finances to control us.
Okay. You also, you want to get rid of the Fed. You've made that pretty clear, and you'd like to go back to the good old-fashioned silver gold standard, something of substance that ensures that monetarists don't play games with our money. Is that it?
I think the law should be the law. The law states that a dollar is a gold or a silver coin of certain weight. That is the law. It's on the books. Our Congress has taken an oath to uphold that law, and it's time that our Congress and our elected officials obeyed the oaths of office in this country.
And it's the manipulation of money as a paper currency that got us in, and also the lending practices of the big banks.
Well, on the contrary, there's two types of paper that were in this country. There was a United States notes, which was backed by gold and silver, and there's a Federal Reserve note owned by the international bankers of the world, which is backed by nothing but hot air.
Okay. If you weren't able, if you were out of work, Mr. Wickstrom, and were not able to make your house payments, and they came, you know, for the house, what would you do?
It would be very interesting. At this time, I would have to wait to see what the conditions really were, Phil. What I'm trying to say,
if they said the law obliges you to surrender your home, you're no longer making your payments, we've waited a long time, we've been patient, and we now must confiscate your property.
Well, first of all lending institutions at this time, Phil, are totally illegal, contrary to the Articles of Confederation, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution, and the majority of state constitutions in the land. Now, as I told you before, law enforcement and the sheriffs and our politicians are there to protect our rights, not to destroy us. And if this did take place and has taken place to anyone in this audience, or will take place, their rights are being violated as a citizen of this land. And I believe it is we the people's right, pursuant to the Declaration of Independence, that when despotism is being forced upon we the people, we do retain the power, as it is written, to overthrow or to destroy this despotism that is being brought against we the people in any which way, manner, or form.
And you see that despotism manifesting itself now?
Yes, I do. I see it coming as another big rip-off of foreclosures against the people by the international bankers and by corrupt politicians.
And if they try to foreclose on members of your posse, what do you suppose the response would be?
Well, I think the people have a right to protect their rights and their land.
Does that mean the use of weapons?
Well, you know, our ancestors back in 1776, they tried to get along with the Central Bank of England, who actually ruled the currency of this land. Franklin made many voyages over to speak to the king and to the parliamentarian type of government of England, of which we have had fostered upon us now. And, you know, you can only talk so long. You know, Phil, the greatest deceivement to the people of this land is that freedom is not cheap. You can't buy your freedom. And if you're not willing to fight for your freedom, I don't think you should have it.
But it sounds to me like you've really collected a group of terribly angry people, many of their grievances real and certainly evident in all parts of this country, especially today. And you put a Christian label on what is essentially a paramilitary effort to accept what you believe to be your message from God and obey his orders to return your country to the control of the people. This sounds like a very incendiary movement here.
Well, my message, I believe in Jesus Christ as the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. I believe that he's the King of Kings, he's the King of this land, a Christian republic. But I also believe and realize that there are documents of law that have been written for our politicians to follow. to protect us, to make sure that we retain free allodial title rights without government interference.
Don't you think that's built into the system? You know, those guys really did appear. While the dream is certainly not manifesting itself in all the places it should be,
right,
it really does. You've got to say, the American system here, the document we call is a tremendous idea.
I wish we'd follow it.
Well, the people of Chicago, especially those in the minority community, would like you to know on the day after the mayoral Democratic primary, that they did follow it, and the system, in their view, worked yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've got to understand, we're all to be born free in this land, without dictates of government against us. We are to retain our sovereign liberty and independence. And we aren't really having that being done for you. You're aware of this, and I don't have to tell you this. We're being invaded, for example. We've got tremendous hardships in our land. No one wants to listen. We're bringing in 670,000 Vietnamese, taking the jobs of our citizens of this land, giving them our work, having our tax money taken and given to foreign countries to pay off defaulted loans to international banks when we could be pumping billions of dollars back into our social security system to help the poor who have worked all their lives in this country. We're aborting 8 million of our children in the last 5 years.
You're anti-abortion, are you?
It's murder. It's murder of the children.
Okay.
It's murder. And they can go out and they can butcher the children off who are defenseless, and yet Mr. Cole, who stands up to defend his right of being a free man in an alleged free country. And as I told you, I want to know who signed the document to send the U.S. Marshals there, because Marshal Lee from Fargo the following day stated that they didn't even understand or realize what violation he had even committed. And I believe it was a setup to shut Mr. Cole's mouth, because he was ahead of a tax resistance move in the Dakotas, where the ranchers and the farmers are losing their land to corrupt bankers and corrupt politicians, and they wanted to shut his mouth, and that's why the roadblock was set up at night. That's why they had ambulances with them before they even met Mr. Cole, because it was a slammer move to shut him up. And I think Mr. Cole, understanding the Singer incident, the McMillan incident in Georgia, feared for his life.
Okay.
Because it seems that the law enforcement officers can go blow anyone they want away, and nothing's done or nothing takes place. And if an American stands up in defense of his rights, he's totally wrong.
Is the caller there? Hi, is the caller there?
Yes, Phil?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm calling from Appleton, Wisconsin, and I'm a little bit...
A little bit what?
All right, I'm a little bit curious as to Mr. Wickstrom's feelings about some of the people here in northern Wisconsin, putting him in the category of a Charlie Manson or Jim Jones. I don't like the religion that he's bringing into this.
Yeah, how do you feel about Mr. Wickstrom?
How do I feel about him?
Yeah.
Well, I read about the posse. Tigerton is about 45 miles north of my own home.
Yeah, and how do you feel about it?
Scares me. It scares me, and it scares an awful lot of people in this area to think that that's so close to us.
What scares you specifically?
The armed men. The idea that these people think that they can step out and literally take over law enforcement.
Right. I'm sure you've seen the media attention given to Posse Comitatus. I'll give you a chance here in a second.
You bet.
One of the points that is being made regarding this group, and there are no absolute numbers on this, and guessing is always an imperfect science, but here's one of the things that we cannot back up from. They are saying things that speak directly to the grievances of millions of Americans who feel that the system has abandoned them, Americans who've worked hard all their lives, paid their taxes, sent their kids to school, cut their grass, didn't put their car up on blocks, did all the right things, and now suddenly they have no job, the bank won't talk to them, and the guy from MasterCard is at the door with a cape demanding that they pay up. Okay. Now, the suggestion is that they may have more support than we realize. How do you feel about that possibility?
Fine. I realize a lot of people are out of work. I can understand that. Fortunately, my husband is employed. But as the mother of 4 children, I certainly do not want my children to be seen on the news and reading in the paper that people can take arms and, in the case what happened in South Dakota, literally murder 2 people.
Mr. Wickstrom commenting.
Well, I'd like to ask the lady, does she agree with the John Singer incident when the police shot a Christian man in Utah for keeping his children out of public school, and they shot him in the back with buckshot and killed him. Do you agree with that?
Oh, of course not.
Well,
but
then,
don't you think that the analogy between the two of them is a little bit severe? This man was being sought by police officials. He was running from the law enforcement. If you're going to uphold law enforcement, shouldn't he have gone ahead and allowed himself to be questioned and cleared the name? It cleared the name of the posse.
Excuse me, I'm going to correct you on that. He wasn't running from anybody. The U.S. Marshal's office in Fargo knew that he was living with his daughter and had been living with her for some time. They knew that he was speaking at a meeting that night. They knew the exact location where it was, Phil, and they never went in with 20 law enforcement officers and allegedly arrested this man.
That speaks to the possibility that we may want to look at the manner of the police behavior and strategy used prior to the time the attempted arrest was executed, but it certainly does not forgive the random firing of several shots from inside a car to police officers who are walking along the road to make an inquiry. Come on.
Certainly, and those police officers have children.
Let me get this first break out of the way. I'm glad you called, and say hello to everybody in Appleton for us. I appreciate your call. Yeah, this is it. This is Posse Comitatus. Our attempt here is to give you just a little bit of a larger peek at the organization about which you've read so much recently. We hope you'll join us. That's Mr. Wickstrom of We're Back, sir. Jim.
Yes.
Over here are a number of people who are here to say publicly that they are members of the posse, and we'll give our audience over here a chance. You are, huh?
Yes.
Why?
Because I stand up for my beliefs.
You do, huh? You can't do that within the system?
And not according to the Constitution that was written.
Right. What is it that troubles you the most? What's motivating you with regard?
The people that are breaking all the laws, the people in office, that are ruining it. They are following the rules that our forefathers put down for us. No. I'd like to know, Jim keeps speaking of the international bankers, and I'd like to know exactly who and what they are.
Well, who do you think they are?
I know who they are.
Why don't you tell?
They're a bunch of rich Jews, and they're a bunch of rich Jew bankers.
You share that view, do you, sir?
Well, I just believe in this here, that if the people in this audience would actually go to work and investigate what the posse stands for, to begin with, just stop and think, use between your ears. If they were doing anything illegally, nobody would follow them. These are Christian people. Why don't you find out what they're really fighting for? They're your last hope. They're your last frontier.
I think we have a system that basically works. I mean, we look at other countries. I think we go to foreign countries more. People would realize how nice it is just to be able to worry about this every day instead of to worry about if you're going to be alive or you're going to have food tomorrow. And this racist, this is just like Hitler. I mean, Hitler says Jews, instead of killing the Jews, we're just going to deport them. Or, you know,
well,
whoever doesn't it, you're taking the Constitution and interpreting it in your way.
You say
the Constitution
works,
can
right?
be interpreted in different ways. That's why it was written the way it was, to be interpreted in many ways.
You say the system works, and yet we've been taken to war 2 times without lawful pursuance of it. Just a minute. You've had a chance to talk. Now you listen to me.
Mr. Wickstrom, I should probably tell you that really doesn't work in an audience like this.
That's fine. But Phil, I'd like to...
But all right, go ahead. You'll briefly make your point, and then we'll...
We have had our sons taken from us illegally to fight in 2 wars, in Korea and Vietnam, without a declaration of war by the Congress of the United States, only to secure the mineral rights and the assets of Korea and Vietnam for the international bankers of the world and for the large oil companies. We have sent our sons to die unconstitutionally, and we're not supposed to stand up, and we're not supposed to say a word and let our sons, our children, go off to fight and die for some international bank.
Over here, please.
First of all, you're far from a Christian. A Christian won't carry a gun purposely to kill anybody. Second of all, if you were If you were a Christian, those Jews and these Dagos and these Germans and Polacks would be all the same. Because we're all paying taxes. This man that they went after was not paying taxes, was not doing what we're doing.
That's your problem.
And I'm not working neither. I have 7 kids.
How come you're not working?
Because there's no jobs.
Why isn't
But
there any
I'm still
jobs?
doing the right thing.
Why isn't there any jobs?
Look it.
No,
If you
you
want to
tell
go
me.
all the way back to this, why there isn't any jobs? Because I agree. All the foreign people coming in, the foreign cars, the foreign... I agree with
Thank you.
that. But that's got nothing to do with murdering people. That's got nothing to do with murdering people and telling the Jews they got to go back where they came from.
Is it okay to murder people
Okay.
for private enterprise?
We are in Chicago attempting to examine the phenomenon of the posse comitatus, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Question to ask these people. They're going under the guise of Christianity. They're anti-abortion, anti-murder. Then why are they carrying weapons? Just to look at them, or are they going to use them?
Well, our Constitution guarantees the right of the people to be armed, and if you'll check your laws, you'll find out that as long as a weapon is not covered up or concealed, it is still the right of the people to bear that weapon. But you know, this lady back in the back row here, she talked about me about all this killing and that. Well, you know, I was drafted in 1964 by the government of this country, and I was taught to go kill people in Southeast Asia. Now, if this country is a Christian country and everyone's supposed to think like her, you're not going to have any army. You're not going to have anyone defending you for your liberties.
Why would that be?
Well, I'm just going through her, the psychological feeling that she put forth.
Don't you think it's possible that we could get to that place someday?
No.
Isn't it much better to develop an understanding rather than send 18-year-olds out there to maybe come home dead?
Well, you know, the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, is trying to ram a one-world government down our throat with a one-world money system and a one-world, one-worlder, all right?
Okay, hang on just a moment, please. Is the caller there?
Yes.
Go ahead. Not much time, sir.
Okay. I'm like the person that you described to the first caller, out of work, out of luck. I believe that once things become desperate enough, people are going to take desperate actions. Thomas Jefferson also stated it that when a government no longer serves the people, it is the right of the people to revolt against that government.
Do you think we've reached that point, do you, sir?
Yes.
Have we reached that?
We damn near have.
Yeah, you're out of work, are you?
Yes, have been for quite some time.
Yeah. So you're saying you understand the feelings of these folks?
Yes, and I'm not a neo-Nazi or anything like that.
Okay, but
either.
would you be willing to go this far and develop a system whereby the top, the buck would stop at the sheriff's desk and not beyond?
Yes, people have to be represented.
And that the sheriff would be capable of deputizing all of the males in the county to catch the bad guy?
Sure.
That's the law, Phil. That is the law today. That is the law today. In fact, if you go into the Illinois State Blue Book in 1923, it'll take you right into the posse by la posse comitatus and give you the power of the sheriff. It'll tell you what the posse is, that it's a legitimate organization of we the people.
Over here.
I'm somewhat confused. I don't know if you are a religious group, an economics group, a survivalist group, or what exactly you are. You do a lot of talking with a lot of words, but you don't really say anything.
Well, I think the greatest problem, ma'am, is that a lot of people in the country are very disgusted with us because we continually bring up the law, because we continually tell the people why they're out of work. You know, the posse is actually an effect, and it's an effect of a cause of what's happened in our country and to we the people. There shouldn't have to be any unemployment in this country. There shouldn't have to be an escalation of crime across this country. And we shouldn't be bringing in all these aliens at this time to take our jobs and everything when we haven't even got the substance of the jobs to make a living ourselves.
Is the caller there, please?
Yes, I'm here.
Hang on. Go ahead, sir.
My question is, I heard him talking about the Jews and they should leave the country, and blacks. I'm a black person, and I heard him say that blacks should be permitted to stay here and work. My question was, though, was are blacks allowed to participate with the posse, or do we stand outside and watch the posse control America and new way of life?
Well, fine. The Posse Comitatus Act of 1878 states that the citizens of the United States can bring forth their posse, you contact us. We'd like to have you in the posse.
So we're going to have integrated posses, huh?
Right.
Well, we have no problem with that at all. We have many Indians in the posse. Come on, let's all get together and at least let's shake up these politics.
All right, so we're going to have black and white posses, but no Jews.
All right, well, what happened
Hold it just a moment. Can the Jews join the posse?
No.
What happened to racism? We can't control America and racism as it stands today.
On the contrary.
Yeah. What'd you say?
What happens to the racism that exists in our country today? We can't control Americans in a free country that are supposed to give blacks an equal chance, but now we're going to give blacks and whites and Indians and everybody else guns, right? To go out and protect our country together.
Right. Well, that sounds like what he's talking about. Let me ask this caller, do you think this kind of thing has a chance?
Phil, I really don't believe it has a good chance. I see some of the merit. I see where some of it is necessary, but I don't think it's going to get very far.
Hang on just a second.
Too close to Hitler.
Hang on a minute.
Well, we've knocked out the blacks and the Jews. I imagine women have no place in the program either.
Right.
Well, let's understand something. Christians can join the posse, all right? We believe that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are Christian documents, as the Library of Congress has stated 4 times. But the main thing is this. The law is the law. And the law states that all males, I'm answering your question now, all males above the age of 15 and over can be brought forth into the posse by law, posse comitatus. Now, if the women can't join, wait a minute, you call your congressman, your senator, and you have them bring a rider in against that bill. We're just obeying the law. The women can't because Congress permitted them not to.
Blacks are free, and we still have a problem with that now.
Yes, hang on a minute.
Okay.
You're talking about the law. What about the 10 Commandments? Thou shalt not kill. And that's what you're doing when these people come in. You're killing them.
Well,
you're killing the Jews because you're telling them that they can't join.
I haven't killed anybody.
Is the caller there?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, please.
I'd like to know what would happen if all people decided to take up arms and just kill anybody that goes against what they believe in.
That's called anarchy.
That's right.
And I assume you're foursquare against that, are you?
Yes, I am.
I mean, it's Jim. What do you think?
Well, you got to understand, people didn't see through a terrible thing that happened in Ashley, North Dakota. 150 law enforcement officers totally sealed off a town and involuntarily held people without warrant, without reporters going into town. No one could come or go. That was almost an act of war against we the people.
Yeah.
Does the posse believe in serving in the armed forces? That's the federal government.
Well, that's an excellent question because 80% of the posse are prior veterans of either World War II, Korea, or Vietnam.
So you think we ought to have a federal government? You're not for abolishing the federal government?
Of course not. I think we should return back to what our founding fathers fought, bled, and died for.
All right. How about abolishing the federal judiciary system? The judicial system?
Well, you know, the United States was set up on 3 branches of government, the legislative, judicial, and executive. But the problem that we've had fostered down upon our throats now is the administrative. When appointed people start making laws in the Federal Register to abridge our rights and our freedom. This is wrong because this is socialism and it's a terrible.
You want everybody elected then? You want everybody elected?
I'd like to see everybody elected, absolutely.
All the deputies and all those civil servants?
On the contrary, the sheriff, his deputies are controlled and they're brought forth by a panel of elected people.
I am a child of Holocaust victims. My grandparents, my ancestors, my aunts, my uncles, they were all killed because they were Jewish. And here I am in America, and I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you tell me that Jews don't belong in your group, they don't belong in this country. This is America. You say that you are a Christian, this is a Christian country. Well, I beg to differ with you. America is a melting pot. And this is also the home of the brave and the free, and we have freedom of religion. And just who are you to sit up there and tell us that Jews can't be here? Just who do you think you are?
I'll tell you what America is. America is a Christian republic, and I'll tell you, it's a melting pot, all right, which our bureaucrats have turned into a dump ground.
And you want to know something? You call yourself a posse, and what you are is a bunch of anti-Semites, unfortunately dressed in Christian clothing.
Well,
that's what you are. If I was a Christian, and you were calling yourself Christian.
I'm really glad you brought that up.
He thinks you're giving Christians a bad name.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up. Hold hold on. Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up because I'm a descendant of Shem, okay? And for me to be calling myself anti-Semitic, there's something wrong here, all right?
Yeah. We are in Chicago with the Posse Comitatus, and we'll be back in just a moment. Here is a very short videotape, which WLUK-TV in Green Bay, Wisconsin has given us permission to share with you. It's just the ambience of the Posse Comitatus as it operates in Wisconsin, and here are just some of the things they do. Roll tape.
We'll move with a cross bunker over here. But those guns and the implied force are part of the posse bravado, symbols of tangible success. For example, by placing holdings in the name of a church and taking a vow of poverty, some posse members have tax and zoning freedom, a way to beat the system. Warnings and classified secrets about the group's size and equipment and power hold the promise of defiance yet to come.
I remember, don't go near that bunker.
Is that common? You have military exercises, do you, Jim?
Yes, we train, and the majority of our trainers are former Green Beret and Army Ranger, Phil.
Where are you getting your equipment? That's expensive stuff you're carrying around.
Well, a lot of people say we get it from the Arabs, but don't believe them.
But is your equipment acquired illegally?
Oh, yes, it's all legal equipment.
And you're using churches to get out of paying taxes, it looks to me like.
On the contrary, we're Christians. We believe that we have a right to have our own church.
All right. May I have just as briefly as we can. You're a member, are you? You support this whole thing, do you? You'll be brief. I feel a speech coming from you.
Yes, we're an Illinois-based group, and we teach the Constitution throughout the country.
People concerned about today's education.
That's correct. We teach congressmen, we teach mayors, and so on and so forth.
What do you teach them?
We teach them about the Constitution. Now, for example, I hate to say this, but there's much that you are uninformed about. It was very clear today, as was the prejudicial remarks made by your employee before this program started.
All right, well, straighten me out. Tell me some of the things I'm...
For example, now, this is a packet on the jury, which we send out to the people. It tells you about your 3 votes. Most of your people here know about 1 vote. They do not know about their 2 important votes in the grand jury and on trial by jury, and that's because information is less out of test.
All right, we don't have time to fully exhaust your grievance, but what essentially moved you to join this group? What's bothering you most?
Easy. There's a book there from 1891 that tells you about the posse. Yeah. Now, the people here do not realize if you're not a part of a posse, you may be fined. That is the law.
So all right, you're justifying the legal existence of the posse. Why are you into this?
I'm saying that the material has been let out of your textbooks. You people do not know your laws. It's as easy as that.
All right. You want to help me out? I'm having some trouble. I want to know what a proud American, middle class, tax-paying, you got kids, mother and wife and dutiful contributor to society is doing in a group like this.
Well, first of all, I'm vice president, and how I got involved in this was by reading my children's textbooks.
Really?
I found the textbook, the history book of today. You compare it with one 10 years ago, somebody's changed history.
Well, what, for example? What about?
Well, would you be surprised to know that the Constitution is not printed, all of it, in your children's history book? Mm-hmm. So we took a different approach to it. We are sending out good material. We don't tell you what are the bad books. You know what the bad books are. So we send out good books, and the first book we send out is the Constitution of the United States.
Okay. Yeah, you've been waiting to get in here, sir. You'll be brief.
Well, I'm going to try to be brief. Number one,
you have to be brief. It's
the child of the Holocaust is probably not aware that one of Hitler's largest financial contributors, in excess of billions and billions of dollars, was Mr. Henry Ford of the United States.
So what?
So what?
That makes him, what's the point?
Right.
I don't have to tell you, there's been a number of books written on the issue of Mr. Ford and anti-Semitism. So we've exhausted that pretty well.
Holocaust children are driving Fords. It's all part of this trilateral thing. The thing with weapons. All right, I'm a businessman, and yes, I have weapons, and I have not taken weapons against any law officer, but when it comes to the point that I am being harassed by the law or my children are without food, yes, I will use weapons.
All right.
I will.
All right.
Yes, Phil, there's been a lot of talk here about our Constitution, and there's been a lot of rebuff. But I'd like to see the show of hands here of anyone who can tell us what the 9th article of our Bill of Rights is.
You want you to
go ahead and tell them. They don't know it.
I would like to see a show of hands for everyone who has a knowledge.
Your point. All right, make your point. We're running out of time.
The point is they don't know.
Yeah.
All right. it states that the enumeration of all rights in the Constitution does not disparage or deny other rights which belong to the people. Now, if you take time to go and study out and find out what is your common law, which is the only law that this country is to be living under. It is not.
Get yourself together and oppose what you believe to be the excesses of the federal government.
The excesses of all government, state, federal, and local, is statutory law.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know, after we deport the Jewish people, what actually are you trying to tell us? How are we going to be better? What are your purposes? And who founded you? When did this all occur?
Well, the posse occurred, as I told you, in 1878 by the Congress of the United States. And the reason that it was brought in, it was Southern congressmen manipulating with the Northern congressmen to bring forth a law called Posse Comitatus, because the carpetbaggers were going into the South after the Civil War to rape and plunder the land.
Why are we going to be better by getting rid of the Jewish people? Why are we going to be better? Why are you going to be better? What is your purpose?
Well, you know, 2 John, just a moment here.
Don't bring that into
just a moment here. I'd like you to know something.
Vigilante group, is that what you are?
Well, the word vigilance is someone who will protect and stand up for his rights.
For who? If you honestly do not like the way the government is run.
Yes.
What do you plan on doing? Overthrowing the government? What are you going to do?
Well, the problem we have here is that both the Republicans and the Democrats at this time are controlled by the Trilateral Party, okay? And the Council on Foreign Relations, which is totally owned by the international bankers and David Rockefeller, the Chase Manhattan.
And we'll be back in just a moment. Just a moment, please, with very little time. You're in this outfit?
No, I'm not a member. I can't be a member, but I think...
Why can't you be?
Because I'm a woman. I have to stand behind my husband. I can't... I believe that the Congress passed this for a reason. Women are not to go out and fight. This is something that men are supposed to do.
But you support the effort.
I support the effort because of one incident. I didn't believe this could happen, and we're all talking about murder and everything today, but 2 years ago on our home, there was a SWAT team that surrounded our home. 4 men at 6 o'clock in the morning. We were woken up in the morning. We have children sleeping for no reason at all. Now, I didn't think this could happen.
They must have attempted to explain it. What was the problem?
The attempt was they came to repossess a vehicle, but they did this at 6 o'clock in the morning. It was not
an automobile.
An automobile.
That you had failed to make payments.
That we could not make payments on because my husband was self-employed at the time.
All right. And you're saying, how come it's not my fault? Why should
If repossessions are being taken place every day today, why would they single out a person and bring a SWAT team into a home because they're afraid of a group of people that have done nothing?
You people talk about the Constitution and what it states and everything else, and you're talking about you'd like to see these officials all elected. Who elected you? Who elected you people? Who? And why?
You see, what you've got to understand is that an elected official, the citizen, is the master of the country. We the people. An elected official is the servant of we the people.
But you're not an elected person, she's saying. Now, give her that, Mr. Wexler.
Well, fine.
All right.
The act of Congress. An act of Congress has authorized it.
Hang on just a moment.
I'd just like to know is, how do you get by without paying income tax when we struggle so hard to pay ours and are proud to pay it?
Hold it just a moment. Is the caller there?
Sure.
Is the caller there?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'd like to know what these people think they've accomplished, and if any of their members are presently on unemployment, and who do they think is paying it, if so? If they seem to...
Is anybody on unemployment? Do any of you receive unemployment, he asks. You do receive unemployment.
So
He sees that as hypocritical. If you're going to dump on the system like this, you shouldn't cash in it.
Well, my employer paid into the state of Illinois for their share of what the state said they had to pay, so therefore I am eligible under that.
Right. Is your unemployment connected to your interest in it?
I don't think I should be drawing unemployment in the sense that no one should, because we should all have jobs, we should be back to work, we should destroy the Federal Reserve System, which is a corrupt organization, and we should stand up for Jesus Christ, our God.
Say, Phil, can I add something onto that?
Yeah, hang on.
I'd like to add something onto this man right here.
Give him a brief statement, yes.
This man is a Vietnam veteran. He's a winner of the Silver Star and the Bronze Star, who went to fight for alleged communism in Vietnam, and he found out that he was sold out and manipulated by the international bankers.
Okay, all right, hang on. Yep.
He says he wants the Jews to... They want the Jews out of the country. Well, if they're supposed to be Christians, Jesus Christ was a Jew.
Hold it. Excuse me.
I just like to know what you think should be done with Gordon Kahl if or when he is arrested.
Well, I believe that Gordon Kahl, if Gordon Kahl is arrested, I first of all got to tell you the man is a very intelligent man that they're seeking. Now, he may have shot 2 U.S. Marshals. He is a very intelligent man that they are seeking at this time. He is a leader of a tax resistance group. They will take him to trial. They'll probably take him down to some federal prison and give him a lobotomy or something to neutralize.
Over here, please. Over here.
I wonder what any member of this group would have to say about what distinguishes them from Nazis' stormtroopers.
Yeah, what is the difference? What is the difference? Well, if you're going to start deputizing every live warm male body in the county, pretty soon you've got knocks on doors, and then you've got broken locks on doors, and then you've got the violation of the basic fundamental tenet of our
You're right,
democracy.
Phil, and that's exactly what the IRS does today.
I disagree with this man. I think the IRS is...
Yeah.
What do you want me? I don't know. You're not a Christian. I said that before. Second of all, if you think you can carry a gun and shoot people, you're murderers. You don't know what Jesus Christ means. And you know what? Where were what about your ancestors?
Yeah, my
ancestors. The system was good for them.
My ancestors came here in the 1700s. That's true from Europe. But I want you to understand. Just a moment. My ancestors owned their land. The banks didn't own everything.
Services provided and promotional fees paid by the following.